Portuguese were the first Europeans to kidnap Africans from the west coast and enslave them in Europe. Slavery was nothing new, but Europeans enslaving Africans was. It was in 1562 when Captain John Hawkins dragged the English into it as the first Englishman to trade African slaves.
As development in the Americas increased and the natives proved to be an insufficient workforce for the sugar plantations, the need for African slaves increased. One reason the African slaves were so demanded was because they developed an immunity to certain diseases brought to the continent by European settlers, such as smallpox. It was also convenient to bring African slaves to the Americas due to the triangular trade. As the name would suggest, this trade was a three-destination trading path: textiles, rum, and manufactured goods from Europe to Africa, then slaves imported to the Americas, then sugar, tobacco, and cotton were brought to Europe, all in a clockwise cycle.
In 1672, Charles II established the Royal African Company in an attempt to capitalize on cheap labor, but Parliament ended this in 1698. So why was this okay? Despite evidence that economic and social development was equal if not ahead of European development, propaganda was spread convincing the English that Africans were naturally inferior, rationalizing the actions that killed millions and stagnated population growth in Western Africa.
Significant opposition to slavery began as early as 1774 when John Wesley published his pamphlet Thoughts Upon Slavery, in which he gave legal and moral argument against it. Over 10 years later, in 1787, the Committee for Abolition of the Slave Trade was established. It was this committee that provided the base William Wilberforce used to propel his campaign for abolition in Parliament. 20 years later, in 1807, he finally succeeded in passing the Slave Trade Act, which made trading slaves illegal, although slavery still continued. It was until 1833 that the Abolition of Slavery Act was passed, making slavery entirely illegal, with only a few exceptions that were later eliminated by 1843. Unfortunately, he did not live to see his success.